Imagine your brain is like this completely empty bucket.
Okay.
And the modern world is just a massive, rushing fire hose of information.
Oh, yeah. Constantly on.
Exactly. And you are just standing there day after day trying to catch it all. I mean, you read the articles, you listen to the news, you scroll through endless feeds.
Desperately hoping you don't spill too much.
Right. And it is exhausting, isn't it? You constantly feel like you are falling behind simply because, well, the bucket is never, ever full.
Yeah, the anxiety that it creates is just profound. We have built this entire culture around this accumulation game. We measure our intellectual worth in, data points memorized or the sheer volume of content we consume in our credentials.
Like it's a high score or something.
Exactly. And because it's quantifiable, because you can literally see the water level rising in that metaphorical bucket, it feels like productive work.
But the document we are exploring for you today, it's this collection of insights called The Kindling on Education, Effort, and the Art of Becoming. It completely shatters that reservoir image.
It really does.
It offers a way out of that anxiety. And that's our mission for this deep dive.
Right, because it forces us to adopt a fundamentally different paradigm for learning and personal growth.
Yeah.
And it's all rooted in this master metaphor from Socrates.
Who famously wrote absolutely nothing down.
Right, he left no curriculum, no books, but he left us this central, enduring truth. Education is the kindling of a flame, not the filling of a vessel.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah.
Because if you really internalize what that means, it is incredibly liberating.
Oh, completely.
You do not need to memorize the entire internet. You don't need to panic about the millions of data points published every single hour.
No, because a flame operates on a completely different logic than water in a bucket.
Yeah.
You just need to find a spark.
Right.
And unlike water, which just, sits statically inside its container, fire has this active, transformative nature.
It does things.
Exactly. When you kindle a flame, it doesn't just occupy space. It consumes, it spreads, and it actually changes the chemical composition of whatever it touches.
It transforms it.
Yes. It illuminates corners of the room that the person who initially struck the match never even intended to light.
Which means we have to rethink what this fire actually is. If we are trying to light a spark inside ourselves rather than just hoarding facts, what are we actually igniting?
That's the core question.
And reading through the kindling, what really stands out is that this fire is not just intellectual. It's not just an accumulation of clever ideas. It is deeply emotional.
It is entirely emotional and, honestly, often highly uncomfortable.
Oh, for sure.
Think about the last time you learned something that genuinely shifted your worldview. It wasn't a neat, tidy experience.
No, it rarely is.
It felt hot. It felt disorienting. That internal heat is the raw material of growth. And it applies to our emotional regulation just as much as our intellectual learning.
Right.
There is this fascinating historical perspective in our sources from the Pilgrims. And it tackles this by looking at one of our most volatile emotions, which is anger.
Right. The Pilgrims, which is wild because we usually think of them as these rigid, stoic figures. And we usually think of anger as this character flaw.
Yeah, it's something we need to apologize for or just eradicate completely.
Exactly.
But the Pilgrims viewed it entirely differently. To them, anger wasn't a moral failing at all. It was an energy management problem.
An energy management problem. I love that phrasing.
Right. The heat of anger is just fuel. They advise that when you experience that spike in emotional temperature, you are faced with three options, and two of them are disastrous traps.
Okay, let's walk through those traps, because I know I fall into them constantly.
We all do. The first trap is suppression.
Just swallowing it.
Exactly. You swallow the anger. But containing that much raw thermal energy without an outlet, it simply burns the container.
Wow.
It manifests as bitterness, anxiety, or even physical illness.
Okay, so that's trap one. What's trap two?
The second trap is expression. Just letting it all out, venting it indiscriminately.
The classic blowout.
Right. And doing that might relieve your internal pressure temporarily, but it causes these destructive ripples in your environment. You end up burning the people around you.
So if bottling it up destroys the vessel and unleashing it burns down the house, what is the third option?
Transformation.
Transformation.
The goal is to capture that raw, hot energy and convert it into something structurally useful.
Okay, I am struggling a bit with the mechanics of this because transforming anger sounds great in a philosophy seminar, right?
Sure.
But when you are in the middle of a screaming match and your adrenaline is spiking, how do you actually do that? It feels like we need a bridge between the philosophy and the biology here.
Well, think about the cognitive process of pausing. When the adrenaline hits, your ego immediately wants to defend itself.
Always.
Transforming anger requires you to artificially insert a gap between the stimulus and your response.
Just a brief pause.
Right. And in that gap, you detach your ego from the situation and ask, what is the actual problem here? You then channel all that aggressive, high-octane energy into establishing a firm, healthy boundary, or into courageously addressing a systemic issue,
Right.
rather than just, attacking the person in front of you.
It's like the regenerative braking system on a hybrid car.
Oh, that's an interesting way to look at it. How so?
Well, think about an old traditional car. When you slam on the brakes, all your forward momentum, all that kinetic energy, it just turns into heat and burns off the brake pads.
Right, it's wasted.
Exactly. It's wasted friction. You're either venting off steam or you're bottling up the engine until it explodes. But in a hybrid car, the regenerative brakes capture that exact same friction and they funnel it back into the battery to power the vehicle forward.
I see.
You aren't ignoring the momentum and you aren't letting it destroy the brakes. You're capturing it.
That is a great analogy. The danger in that hybrid car comparison, though, is that the human engine doesn't have an automatic computer to switch those gears for us.
Right, no automatic override.
No, you have to consciously catch the friction. You have to be the one to manually route that energy into the battery.
Which is exhausting work.
It is,
Yeah.
but if we connect this to the bigger picture, this difficult, highly conscious internal transformation, it is the absolute prerequisite for any external change in the world.
Which brings us to Leo Tolstoy's Calendar of Wisdom. Because he leans heavily on thinkers like Giuseppe Mazzini and St. John Chrysostom to make this exact point.
He makes a stark, almost unforgiving argument there. We love to look for external solutions to society's problems.
Oh, absolutely.
We want a new law, a brilliant new institution, or, a sweeping social program to fix things.
It's easier.
Exactly.
Right.
But Tolstoy argues that no external mechanism can genuinely improve society if it lacks an inner foundation.
Right.
If you want to improve the world, there is only one valid starting point. You have to improve yourself.
Yeah, we prefer the external solutions because they are vastly easier. I mean, it is so much easier to vote for a policy or just post an opinion online than it is to stop yelling at your spouse or to manually override your own anger.
It really is.
But it tracks perfectly with the flame metaphor. You cannot start a fire in the forest if your own match is completely wet. Tending your own inner fire has to come first.
Which naturally introduces the next massive hurdle.
Sustaining it.
Exactly. Once you have that inner fire lit, once you are actively capturing your emotional energy and doing the hard work of self-improvement, how do you keep the fire from going out?
Yeah, how do we sustain it? Because as we were saying, human nature naturally seeks the shortcut.
We always want the easy way.
We want the fire to magically burn forever without us ever having to go out into the cold and actually chop the wood.
And the sources in the Kindling are entirely uncompromising about this reality. There's no shortcut.
None.
The discussion points heavily to Robert Greene's daily laws, where he just takes a sledgehammer to what we call the myth of the mad genius.
Oh, that pervasive idea that someone just wakes up one Tuesday, gets struck by a lightning bolt of divine inspiration, and effortlessly paints a masterpiece.
Or writes a brilliant novel over a weekend.
Exactly.
We cling to that romantic mythology because it absolves us of responsibility.
And lets the rest of us off the hook.
Exactly. If genius is just a magical lightning bolt or a purely genetic lottery ticket, then I don't have to feel bad when I give up on a difficult project. I just wasn't chosen.
Right. I'm just not a genius.
But Green points out that the creative energy, that brilliant flame we all admire from the outside, is actually the fruit of profoundly unglamorous effort.
Unglamorous is the perfect word for it.
It requires enduring endless, boring routines. It requires sitting at a desk through hours of agonizing self-doubt. Mastery is a result of relentless work, nothing else.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting, though.
Yeah.
Because as I read through the document, I hit this quote from an anonymous author that says, "Work, work, work forever and ever. The amount of hours to mastery does not matter. There is no end zone."
Right. Now, honestly, if I'm listening to this deep dive on my commute right now, I'm exhausted just hearing that.
It sounds heavy.
It does.
Yeah.
I have to ask, doesn't this relentless work, work, work contradict the whole don't be a vessel idea?
Yeah.
I mean, if there's no end zone, aren't we just replacing a treadmill of memorizing facts with a treadmill of sheer exhaustion?
That is a crucial distinction to make. Because if you are just grinding for the sake of grinding, constantly obsessing over when you will finally arrive,
Yeah.
then yes, you are just on a new treadmill.
Right.
And you will burn out.
Okay.
The psychological angle of how we view our effort is what prevents that exhaustion. And to resolve this tension, we can look at this brilliant paradox from Naval Ravikant.
I see, say.
He advises cultivating impatience with actions, patience with results.
Okay, break that down for me. What does impatience with actions actually look like on a random Tuesday afternoon?
It means separating what you control from what you don't. The action chopping the wood, sitting down to write the code, having that difficult conversation that is entirely within your control. Right, the verb.
Exactly, the verb. So move quickly and vigorously on that front. Be deeply engaged in the action. But the fruit of that labor, the moment the flame actually catches and the room is illuminated.
That's out of your hands.
Completely. That happens on its own schedule.
Mhm.
It involves market forces, luck, timing, all of which are out of your control. You don't get exhausted if you detach your ego from the timeline of the results.
So you focus furiously on the striking of the match, but you don't throw a tantrum if the log takes an hour to actually catch fire.
Exactly. And the Stoic philosopher, Musonius Rufus, provides a powerful lens to help us endure that initial friction.
He has a great quote on this, right?
He does. He taught that if you achieve something good through hard work, the exhaustion and the labor eventually pass away, but the good remains.
Let's ground that. Think about a time you had to stay up until, say, 2:00 a.m. to finish a project right, rather than cutting a corner.
We've all been there.
The physical exhaustion of that night was gone 3 days later. You don't feel tired about it a month later. But the integrity of the work, the good that was produced, is still standing.
Yes. And conversely, Rufus noted that if you do something shameful, just to get a quick hit of pleasure or to take an easy shortcut,
The pleasure evaporates almost instantly.
almost instantly, but the shame and the structural weakness of what you built stick around forever. The effort itself is the fuel.
The discomfort of the work fades, but the heat it generates stays in the room.
Beautifully put.
So the effort is the fuel. But, I mean, even a fire that is well-fueled can be easily smothered.
Oh, absolutely.
If you pack too much dense wood on top of a tiny spark, you kill it. A fire needs oxygen just as much as it needs fuel. So if we are constantly, relentlessly fueling our minds with work, 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 aren't we risking smothering the very spark we are trying to grow?
We absolutely risk smothering it. And this brings us to a vital counterbalance in the source text.
Which is,
Well, George MacDonald, who is this Scottish writer whose ideas heavily influenced thinkers like C.S. Lewis, he introduced a concept he called sacred idleness.
sacred idleness. On the surface, that sounds like a total oxymoron,
It really does.
especially in our culture. I mean, idleness is practically a sin.
It sounds wrong to our modern ears because we automatically equate idleness with laziness.
Right.
But MacDonald insisted it is a deliberate, fallow rest. Think of agricultural soil.
Okay.
If you plant heavy crops in the exact same field year after year without ever giving the ground a season to rest and recover, you completely deplete the nutrients.
The soil just turns to dust.
Exactly. Sacred idleness is that fallow period for the human mind. And the document pairs this with the deeply poetic anonymous quote, "You are not just one pebble on the mountain, you are the entire mountain in one pebble."
Wait, I have to stop you there.
Sure.
Because I love the poetry of being the mountain in a pebble. I really do. But practically speaking, if I tell my boss or my family that I'm practicing sacred idleness, they're just going to call me lazy.
Probably, yes.
How is this not just a high-minded philosophical excuse to sit on the couch and binge watch 5 hours of television? How do we tell the difference between giving the mind sacred rest and just numbing ourselves into a coma?
This raises a profoundly important question. And it highlights the exact trap most people fall into when they attempt to rest.
Right.
The fundamental difference between sacred idleness and numbing out is the presence of your attention.
Presence.
Yes. And to understand the mechanics of this, we need to look at what's actually happening in the brain.
You're talking about the default mode network, right?
I am. When you are truly idle, when you are staring out a window, or going for a walk without headphones, or taking a shower, your brain isn't actually turned off.
It's still working.
It is. It switches to the default mode network. This is the neurological state where your brain starts consolidating memories, processing complex emotions, and connecting seemingly unrelated ideas.
It's where the magic happens.
It is the literal biological backbone of the aha moment.
Mhm.
But, and this is the crucial part, that network cannot activate if you are bombarding it with external stimuli, like a television screen or a social media feed.
Ah, So when I'm doom scrolling, I feel like I'm resting because I'm not working,
Right.
but I'm actually still blasting the brain with the fire hose. I'm not giving it oxygen at all.
Exactly. Which is why David J. Schwartz points out that thought management is far more important than raw brain power.
Oh, that makes sense.
You can possess a genius-level IQ, but if you cannot steer your attention, if you
Yeah.
can't tolerate the quiet required to let that default mode network engage, your raw intelligence goes nowhere.
It's like having a massive 1,000 horsepower engine but no steering wheel.
Exactly. It just crashes.
Right.
And sports psychologist Bob Rotella brings this concept down to a practical, everyday mandate. He says the ultimate goal for peak performance and for meaningful rest is to play in the present moment.
Play in the present moment.
Yes. You have to uncouple yourself from the anxiety of the future and the regrets of the past and be totally focused on where you are right now. Rotella notes that this is simple, but it is certainly not easy.
Simple but not easy. So when you are binge watching television to escape the stress of your workday, you are actively trying to absent yourself from your own life.
Yes.
That is numbing. Sacred idleness is an active presence. It is sitting on the porch and actually watching the trees.
Yes, or just breathing.
Right. It is being fully engaged with a quiet moment without demanding that the moment produce a quantifiable, measurable result for your vessel.
It is the difference between turning the lights off, because you're hiding in the dark, and turning the lights off so you can allow your eyes to adjust and actually see the stars.
That is a beautiful way to put it. So let's trace our path here.
Okay.
We've talked about lighting this inner flame through the conscious transformation of emotional friction, like anger.
Right?
We've talked about fueling it with patient, persistent effort, completely detaching our ego from the timeline of the results. And we've talked about giving it the oxygen of mindful, present rest so the brain can actually synthesize what we're learning. But what happens when our flame comes into contact with the rest of the world?
This is where the ultimate test of the kindling metaphor really lies. Picasso had a profound definition of what makes someone a true artist.
What did he say?
He said a true artist is not merely someone who is inspired. A true artist is one who inspires others.
The flame is meant to be passed.
Exactly. And the sources in the kindling emphasize that this passing of the flame is most critical not on some grand global stage, but in the quiet, unseen moments of our daily lives.
Particularly at home.
Yes, particularly at home.
There's a section in the document referencing Ryan Holiday's Daily Dad, and it is a real gut punch in its simplicity.
It really is.
Holiday emphasizes that you will never, ever look back on your life and regret stopping whatever important adult task you were doing to just get down on the floor and play with your kids.
Because, as Holiday points out, entering a child's world is its own unique kind of kindling.
How so?
Well, when you give a child your full, undivided presence, when you practice that active attention we just discussed, you are sending the most vital message a human being can receive.
Which is?
There is nothing in this world more important to me right now than you. You are passing the flame of self-worth to them.
And it's reciprocal, isn't it? Because a child's mind is refreshingly free of that vessel anxiety we carry around as adults.
Oh, completely.
They aren't trying to optimize their playtime for a resume. Engaging with that pure presence refreshes your own flame.
It provides immense oxygen to your own spark.
So what does this all mean for our broader interactions outside the home? Because we have this beautiful, pure image of passing warmth and light to a child.
Right.
But let's be realistic, not all of our daily interactions are that pure. We also possess a tremendous capacity to pass along toxic fire.
We do.
There's a story in the sources from Anthony DeMello about gossip that illustrates the dark side of this perfectly.
The story of the master and the disciple. It perfectly captures how easily we distort the flame.
Exactly. The disciple comes to the master and confesses that he has this terrible, ingrained habit of repeating gossip. He just can't stop himself.
And the master, with this incredibly wicked sense of irony, looks at him and says, repeating it wouldn't be so bad if you did not improve on it.
It's a humorous line, but it is painfully accurate to human nature.
There's
Because gossiping is essentially emotional arson. We have to look at the mechanism of why we gossip. We are craving connection.
right.
We want a spark of intimacy with the person we are talking to, but instead of doing the hard work of building a real fire, we strike a cheap match.
We don't just pass along a neutral fact.
No, we add our own dramatic fuel to it.
Uh,
We exaggerate, we twist the narrative, we burn down someone else's reputation just so we can warm our hands by the fire for 5 seconds.
Emotional arson. That is exactly what it is.
Yeah.
And the Stoic construction we discussed at the very beginning about transforming the energy of anger rather than just venting it. It applies perfectly to the urge to gossip. The impulse to gossip is just raw energy. It's a desire to bond. But instead of using that energy to burn someone down, you can consciously redirect it.
You can intercept it.
Exactly. You can manually override the system and choose to pass along a flame that actually illuminates.
Which requires immense strength. It requires an active, often exhausting choice to absorb the friction of the moment and refuse to pass the damage along to the next person.
And that imperative brings us to a quote from John F. Kennedy's address to Phillips Academy.
What was the quote?
He told the students, "Do not pray for easy lives. Pray to be stronger men."
Wow.
The quality of our engagement with difficulty, whether it's the internal difficulty of managing our anger, the tedious difficulty of doing the unglamorous work of mastery, or the social difficulty of resisting the urge to gossip, that engagement is what shapes us.
And by shaping us, it inevitably shapes the people around us.
Exactly. In every interaction, we are either passing on our strength or we are passing on our weakness.
So to bring this all together for you listening, think about how far we've traveled today from that initial suffocating image of the bucket and the fire hose.
It's a massive shift.
True education, self-improvement, the art of becoming. None of these things are about filling yourself up with data until a bell rings and you're magically done.
No, there is no graduation day for becoming a more complete human being.
It is a constant living cycle. You light the spark by taking your raw emotional friction and choosing to transform it.
Right?
You fuel that spark with patient, daily effort, completely letting go of the timeline. You keep the fire alive by giving your brain the oxygen of real, unplugged, present rest.
And then you carefully and intentionally pass that warmth on to the people around you. It is an ongoing, lifelong stewardship. And to that point, I want to share one final quote from the source document.
Please do.
It's an anonymous piece of wisdom, and it serves as a perfect daily instruction for this exact stewardship. Don't start your day with the broken pieces of yesterday. Every morning we wake up is the first day of the rest of our life.
You know, it's easy to dismiss a quote like that as just a cheesy motivational poster, but in this context, it carries real weight.
It does. It is a fundamental claim about the physical nature of fire. If your fire went out yesterday, or if you accidentally burned a bridge with gossip or unmanaged anger, yesterday's ash does not prevent you from striking a new match today.
That's incredibly freeing.
Tolstoy was right. The vessel model offers a false promise of completion, the illusion that once your bucket is full, you can never be empty,
But the flame model is much more honest.
and much more forgiving. It simply asks you to wake up and keep tending the fire.
To wake up and keep tending. I think that is the perfect place to land. So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over as you go about the rest of your day, or as you head into your next meeting. We started by talking about the profound difference between filling a bucket and lighting a spark. If your education, your personal growth, and your very presence is a fire, and if every single interaction you have today is a chance to pass it along, are the people you meet walking away feeling illuminated, or are they just getting burned?